Out in the woods, there are things no one can explain. Shapes that move just beyond the tree line. Eyes that glow where no animals should be. And sounds that don't belong. Tonight we'll look at stories of unknown creatures in the forest. Ones you'll wish you'd never heard. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more scary stories. The town of Brackenridge sat hidden high in the mountains, far from highways or city lights. It was the kind of place where rumors carried more weight than newspapers, and the one rumor every local swore by was this: never swim past the buoy line at Blackwater Lake. The lake was massive, still, and cold as glass. A tourist might look at it and think it was peaceful, even welcoming, but the locals knew better. The water ran deep, so deep no one had ever mapped its bottom. Generations of townsfolk warned their children, stay near the docks, stay inside the line of floating buoys, and never, ever swim after dark. When asked why, they wouldn't give details. Just a shake of the head, a muttered, "You don't want to know." Ethan wasn't from Brackenridge. He was a diver, a thrill seeker who traveled to remote places chasing adrenaline. When he heard whispers of Blackwater Lake's legend, he saw an opportunity. He convinced a few other divers, 3 guys his age, to join him for a weekend trip. "We'll map it ourselves," Ethan said, slapping the hood of his car as they loaded gear. "Get some footage. Prove it's just a bunch of old-timer stories." The first day was uneventful. They paddled out, set up camp along the shore, and dove within the buoy line. The water was icy, almost black, and visibility dropped to nothing after 20 feet. Still, they surfaced laughing, breath steaming in the mountain air. But that night, things changed. As the group sat by the fire, Ethan noticed the lake. Its surface was no longer calm. The water rippled, churned, as if something massive was moving beneath. Then he saw it. 2 faint, glowing shapes just under the surface. Eyes, watching. "Do you see that?" he whispered. The others looked. No one spoke. The eyes sank away after a few seconds, leaving the lake still again. They didn't laugh after that. The next morning, Ethan woke to find one of the wetsuits shredded, not slashed by a knife or torn on rocks. It looked chewed. Jagged rips, the neoprene hanging in tatters, as though teeth had gnawed through it. "Must have been an animal," one of the guys muttered, though no one sounded convinced. Still, Ethan was stubborn. "I'm going out past the line today. If there's something in that lake, I'm finding it." Against their better judgment, the others followed. They paddled past the buoys, their kayaks creaking in the silence. When they dropped into the water, the cold hit harder this time, like the lake was trying to freeze the breath out of them. Visibility was worse. Shapes moved in the murk, just out of reach of their flashlights. The deeper Ethan swam, the more he swore he heard. Noises, clicking, groaning, like the water itself was alive. Then something brushed his leg. He whipped his light down and froze. Rows of teeth, white, jagged, grinning up from the dark. And behind them, eyes, dozens of them, glowing faintly like lanterns, circling. Ethan bolted upward, breaking the surface in a frantic splash. The others followed, coughing, gasping. They didn't speak as they clawed their way back into the kayaks, but the looks on their faces told Ethan they'd seen it too. That night, none of them slept. The lake was restless. Waves lapped violently against the shore, though no wind blew. The fire hissed and cracked, throwing shadows across their pale faces. Then came the tapping. At first, they thought it was the kayaks knocking against rocks. But when Ethan looked, he saw long, pale fingers drumming on the wooden hulls. fingers too thin, too long. He shouted, and the shape slipped back beneath the surface, leaving only ripples. "Tomorrow," Ethan said through clenched teeth. "We leave." But the lake had other plans. At dawn, one of the guys was gone. His sleeping bag lay empty, torn. No footprints, no drag marks. Just wet earth leading to the shore. His kayak was still there, but floating loose, the rope chewed clean through. The others wanted to pack and run. Ethan argued, but his voice shook. They didn't make it far. As they shoved off, the lake erupted. Something massive slammed into one of the kayaks, flipping it clean over. Ethan caught only a glimpse. A pale-scaled body, the size of a tree trunk sliding beneath the surface, and eyes, hundreds of eyes, glowing like fireflies in the deep. Screams echoed across the water. Bubbles rose, red tint spreading like ink. Then silence. 2 kayaks floated empty. Ethan didn't look back. He paddled until his arms gave out, until his body trembled from exhaustion. When he finally reached shore, he collapsed, too weak to cry. Locals found him the next morning. He told them everything. The eyes, the shredded wetsuits, the hands tapping on the kayaks. They listened in silence, their weathered faces unreadable. When he finished, one of the older men spoke. "You went past the line," he said flatly. Ethan nodded, ashamed, broken. The man sighed. "Then you're marked." Ethan left Brackenridge, swearing never to return. But at night, in the quiet of his apartment, he still heard it. Faint tapping on his window, like long fingers drumming the glass. Sometimes, when he walked by mirrors or dark water, he swore he saw them. Dozens of glowing eyes, watching, waiting. And one night, as a storm raged outside, Ethan woke to find his carpet soaked, his floor wet with lake water. The sound of gnashing teeth echoed in the dark, and the eyes rose once more. This story has haunted me ever since it happened, and I've never told it outside of a small hunting circle. But considering the number of missing people in the woods around here, maybe it's better that people know. It happened 2 autumns ago, in the thick of hunting season. My buddy Travis and I had gone out to track deer in a stretch of state forest about 20 miles outside of town. It wasn't an official trail, just an old service road that led deeper into the woods. The kind of place you only find if someone shows you. The locals warned us about going too far past the ridge. Not because of bears or cougars, but because, as they put it, the forest past there isn't empty. I always assumed they meant drifters or maybe moonshiners. Travis and I weren't the superstitious type. We brushed it off. The first night, we set up camp in a clearing just beyond the ridge. By 11 p.m., the woods had gone still. No crickets, no owls, just silence so heavy it felt like the trees were pressing in on us. That's when Travis froze and whispered, "You see that?" Through the branches, maybe 50 yards away, there was a dim yellow glow, like someone walking with a lantern. The light weaved between the trees, slow and steady. At first, I figured it was another hunter, but the way the glow moved, side to side, swaying, it didn't look right. It didn't bob like a flashlight or move naturally with a person's stride. Travis wanted to check it out. I wasn't thrilled, but I followed, rifle in hand. As we crept closer, the glow became clearer. It wasn't bright enough to light the whole forest, just enough to outline the nearby branches in a sickly, yellow haze. That's when we saw it. At first glance, it looked like a man. Tall, maybe 7 feet with long limbs. But where its head should have been, there was nothing. Just a stump of a neck. and swinging from between its ribs was an old iron lantern, glowing faintly. It wasn't holding it. The lantern was inside of it, embedded in its chest, swaying with each unnatural step. Travis cursed under his breath. The thing stopped. Even though it didn't have a face, I swear it turned toward us. The glow swelled, brighter for just a second, and my chest tightened like someone had grabbed hold of my lungs. "We need to go," I whispered, tugging Travis's arm. But he was staring, locked on the lantern, eyes wide and unfocused, like he was in a trance. The stories say if you look too long, you don't come back. I didn't know that then, but I felt it. Every part of me screamed to run. I yanked him hard, breaking his gaze, and we stumbled backward through the brush until the glow disappeared behind the trees. We didn't sleep that night. Just sat by the fire, whispering about what we'd seen. Travis tried to play it off as some trick of light, maybe a hunter with a weird getup. But I saw the way his hands shook. By morning, he wanted to pack up. I wanted to as well, but the ridge trail had always been confusing. And in our rush, the night before, we hadn't marked it well. The woods all looked the same. We hiked for hours, circling more than once. Every so often, I thought I saw a dim glow far off between the trees, swaying in the daylight, like a candle flame struggling against the wind. By sunset, we were still lost. The forest was too quiet. Even our footsteps felt muffled. That's when we heard it. Branches snapping. Heavy. Slow. Like something big was walking parallel to us. We froze, rifles raised. Through the trees, the lantern glow flickered to life again. Only this time it was closer. Much closer. Travis whispered, "Don't look." But curiosity clawed at me. I glanced. Just a flicker. It was there, standing between the pines. Faceless. Headless. Lantern swaying with a rhythm that didn't match its steps. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The glow seeped into me, warm and suffocating, like it was pulling me in. Travis shoved me. I fell backward, breaking the trance. He hissed, "Run!" And we did. We ran until the trees thinned and stumbled into an old service shack. Roof caved in, windows shattered. But it was shelter. We barricaded the door with broken boards and sat in the dark listening. Hours passed. Then, tap, tap, tap. Something rapped against the wood. Not at the door. At the wall. Slowly circling. Then came the light. Faint at first, seeping through the cracks. The whole shack glowed sickly yellow as the lantern swayed just outside, casting warped shadows across the walls. Travis gripped his rifle, muttering to himself. I pressed my hands over my ears, eyes shut tight, because I swear I could hear whispers in the crackle of the lantern flame. Voices. Familiar ones. My father. My ex. Myself. All begging. All calling me out into the trees. At some point, I must have blacked out. When I woke, the shack was dim with early morning light. The glow was gone. The forest silent. But Travis wasn't there. His rifle leaned against the wall. His pack sat by the door. But of him, no trace. I stumbled out into the trees calling his name, but the woods swallowed the sound. 100 yards from the shack, I found his cap. It was nailed to a tree. The nail was old, rusted, and bent, hammered deep into the bark. The hat was shredded, edges dark with something I didn't want to identify. Above it, carved into the tree, were 3 words: "Keep looking back." I found my way out by sheer luck, following the sound of the highway until the trees thinned. I've never gone back. Sometimes, though, when I close my eyes, I see that glow swaying between the branches. I hear Travis's voice calling from the tree line, begging me to come find him. And I know if I ever look too long, I won't come back either. This happened last summer, and even now I'm not sure if I fully believe what I experienced. But I know what I heard, and I know what I saw. I grew up in a small mountain town where hiking trails were everywhere. Locals always had strange stories about the woods. Lights at night, people vanishing, animal carcasses hanging from trees. But the one rumor that stuck with me was something hikers called the calling. The story went like this. Sometimes when you were deep in the forest, past the marked trails, you'd hear your own voice calling to you. Not an echo, not a hallucination, a perfect imitation, screaming your name, begging for help, and those who followed the sound never came back. They said you'd find their belongings later. Boots, backpacks, shirts, nailed to tree trunks like trophies. I never thought much of it. Just a creepy tale to keep kids from wandering too far. But one evening, I learned firsthand how real it was. It was late July when my friend Caleb invited me on a weekend hike. He'd done the trail before and promised a good campsite by the river. We left early, backpacks heavy with food, tents, and enough beer to last 2 nights. By the second day, we were deep into the forest, farther than I'd ever gone. The woods grew denser, the canopy blocking out most of the sun. Everything felt muffled, as if the air itself was heavier. That evening, after setting up camp, Caleb mentioned the local legend of the calling. He laughed as he told it, even imitating the voice of a hiker begging for help. Imagine that, he said, taking a swig from his flask, hearing yourself calling out from the trees. Freaky, right? I laughed it off, but the way he said it unsettled me. Something about joking that deep in the forest made the air feel colder. That night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to pee. The fire had burned to embers, and Caleb was snoring in his tent. I walked a few feet from camp and was about to head back when I froze. From the trees, maybe 50 yards away, I heard my name. Not shouted, not whispered, just spoken, like someone was standing there in the dark. Ethan. It was my voice. Every hair on my body stood on end. I turned, shining my flashlight into the trees, but there was nothing. Just endless branches and shadows. I told myself I was tired, that maybe it was the wind, but then it called again. Ethan, help me! This time it was more desperate, panicked, and I knew deep down that it wasn't me hearing things, because the voice was perfect, identical to mine. I sprinted back to camp and dove into my tent. Caleb woke up, groggy and annoyed, but I didn't tell him what I'd heard. I just lay awake until sunrise, ears ringing with the sound of my own voice echoing from the trees. The next morning, Caleb was gone. His tent was empty. His pack was still there. No sign of him in camp. At first, I thought maybe he'd gone to relieve himself, but after 30 minutes passed, I started to panic. That's when I saw it. About 100 feet from camp, nailed to a tree with what looked like a rusted railroad spike, was Caleb's shirt, the one he'd been wearing the night before. The fabric was torn, stained dark in places. I stumbled back, my stomach twisting when from deeper in the woods I heard his voice. Ethan! Over here. I froze. The voice was desperate, pleading. But something about it was wrong. It was too clear, too sharp, and it was coming from the same direction I'd heard my own voice the night before. Help me, Ethan! I wanted to run to him. Every instinct told me to move. But another part of me, the part that remembered the stories, the nailed shirt, the perfect imitation of my own voice, kept me rooted in place. I grabbed my backpack, shoved what I could into it, and bolted down the trail we came from. The voice followed me. Sometimes it was Caleb. Sometimes it was me. Sometimes it was both. Our voices overlapping, calling my name in unison. Always from the trees, always just out of sight. The deeper I went, the more wrong the forest felt. The trail seemed to stretch longer, twisting in ways I didn't remember. My legs ached, my chest burned, but I didn't dare stop. And then I saw it. Nailed to another tree, farther down the trail, was Caleb's hiking boot. Torn, splattered with something dark. The nail had gone straight through the sole. And beneath it, scrawled into the bark of the tree in jagged letters, was one word. Follow. I didn't. I ran. I don't remember how I made it out. I remember stumbling onto the access road at dusk, collapsing in the dirt until a passing car stopped and picked me up. I told the rangers everything, but when they searched, they found nothing. No sign of Caleb, no nailed clothing, no carved word in the tree, just our abandoned campsite. To this day, I don't know what happened to him, if he's still out there, if he followed the voice too far. But sometimes, when the house is quiet and I'm lying awake in bed, I swear I hear it.